Today is an exciting day because you are going to gain 3D modeling superpowers, and our goal, of course, is for you to be comfortable using our program, Autodesk Inventor, to be able to create some basic parts in this 3D modeling program. Our end goal is by the time that we're done, we're kind of breaking this into multiple sections here. By the time we're done, you are going to have 3D modeled a Nintendo Wii remote. This is from a video game console, so this is a video game controller. This is what yours is going to look basically like this. By the time we are done, you are going to have the powers to be able to 3D model something like this, nice and precisely. Here's what the real one looks like, in case you've never seen one before. So some things of note before we get started. I want you, this lesson that you're viewing right now, this should be done on your Chromebook. So what I prefer you to do is you're viewing this lesson on your Chromebook, and then on our design lab computers, so on the computers in the classroom, you'll actually be performing these tasks in the program in Autodesk Inventor. So you'll have two computers going on your Chromebook, the lesson, on your design lab computer, you're going to be performing these tasks. Heads up, we are going to make some happy little accidents on purpose. So I'm going to have you do some mistakes on purpose so we know how to fix them. That's an important part of this program, is knowing how to fix certain mistakes. Also, I'm probably going to mess up too. So I'll have to fix some of the mistakes that I accidentally do. I'm going to ask that you trust the process here. So trust this process. I'm going to explain some things as we're going. We're going to make some shapes. I'm going to explain tools, all that kind of stuff. So trust the process here, and just by the end of this, you're gonna learn a lot. You're gonna learn a lot about this program and hopefully feel very comfortable about it. For a lot of you, this is your first time ever 3D modeling, or especially with a program this precise. It can be challenging. That's part of learning, is going through that process can sometimes be frustrating. What I ask you to do is just persist. I ask you to try. If you click the wrong thing or adjust some settings, the computer is not going to start on fire. So we'll be okay. We can reverse. If we make an accident or something like that, we can reverse what we got going on there. And I just want you to know, I've had thousands of people, thousands of students learn this program, and you're fully capable of learning it too. I believe in you. Our first section is just an intro section. We're going to learn how to save and organize parts, how to open parts, some of this really basic type stuff, because it's really very important to this program. The program's kind of picky about some of these types of things. Let's start with first, why would we even use this program versus something like Tinkercad or hand drawing? Because I know some of us here, we've probably used Tinkercad. Now, Tinkercad's kind of neat. It's kind of good at you can make some basic shapes and kind of clump them together and use that for 3D printing even. But one thing that Tinkercad doesn't really allow us to do is be extremely, extremely precise compared to Autodesk Inventor. So Autodesk Inventor, we can be way more precise. Also in Autodesk Inventor, we can make individual part files. We can assemble them together to see what our assembly is going to look like. And a big benefit of Autodesk Inventor is we're going to make technical drawings of our 3D models. And then we can print that technical drawing out. We can take it to the workshop, and then we can build our project based off of that technical drawing that we printed out. Hand drawing can, of course, be very beneficial, but in terms of being really super precise, the computer, us typing in dimensions, that's going to be way more precise than drawing a line on a piece of paper. And then in terms of making mistakes, you got to erase stuff. There's just so many mistakes that can more easily happen when we're hand drawing versus when we type stuff on the computer, it just kind of is what it is. And then a big benefit versus hand drawing is with 3D modeling, it's 3D. It's 3 dimensions, 3 axes. We can kind of manipulate and move around. And anyway, I think you get the idea. So let's get started here. So what I need you to do, you should be viewing this computer, viewing this on your Chromebook. You should have the Design Lab computer open. Get ready. First thing we're going to do is, how do we find the actual program? So here's how you do that. Follow along with me. Move your mouse to the bottom left corner of your screen. Click this Windows icon. So I clicked that. I left clicked it one time. That's going to open up, or we're going to be able to see the different apps that are on this computer. For you, your Autodesk Inventor logo should show up somewhere in here. It should be an orange eye. For me, it's not showing up. So what I'm going to do, and what you can do too, is you can scroll down alphabetical order. I go down to Autodesk Inventor. I click this drop down arrow once. I left click release. And then I see this orange I for Autodesk Inventor Professional. That's what you need to click to open the program. So open your program now. Pause here if your program's not loaded yet. And then what you're going to do, when you load up your program, it's probably going to end up looking something like this. We call this our home page. So now what I want you to understand is like the workflow of this program. So what do we start with, and then what do we do, and what do we do after that? Basically, here's how this program works and what we're going to do in class. We're going to make parts. Each of us, we're going to make every part of our project individually. And then, so if you notice, it's showing a single part. And then what we're going to do is we're going to assemble those parts in the 3D modeling program, and that's going to be your evidence that your dimensions are correct. That's going to be your proof. If you're making a box, your assembly, it has to fit together. You're not going to have any gaps in it, and that's going to be proof that your dimensions are correct. After we do an assembly, we are then going to do a drawing. We call those technical drawings. So if you notice here, this is a view of this part. It's multiple views of the part. We will do a technical drawing of our assembly. I don't need you to fully understand all of that right now because it'll make sense once we actually start diving into it. The first thing I need you to understand and do is we're going to make a new part file. We can do that by clicking part. Another way I want you to see and get used to doing this is if I click new, I left clicked new, which you can do the same. So left click new, it's going to bring up this window. And we have the same thing that kind of pops up here. The reason why I want you to use this window is because we're going to choose specific things on this window when we start making this kind of stuff. Our first thing we're going to do is standard.ipt, and then we're eventually going to do standard.im, and then we're eventually going to do standard.idw. These two are going to happen in a couple weeks. First thing, standard.ipt, I make sure I'm on that, then I click create. You do the same. Now it's loading up. Here is what it's going to look like when we are making parts. The first thing I want us to learn how to do is how to save parts, because this is not like a Google document or a Google Slides. Google Slides, like they automatically save for you. This does not do that. This does not automatically save for you. We have to like tell this when to save. And so like, let's say, imagine you spent an hour working on here and you never saved it and the computer crashed. You would lose an hour's worth of work, and that would be very frustrating. So we want to learn how to save properly. Also, if you're making an assembly, the program is very picky on where those files are. So follow along with me. I'm going to show you how to save properly, and you're going to do the exact same thing that I'm doing. Move your mouse to the upper left corner where the word file is in orange. We're going to click file. I left click that once. And then I'm going to go down to the word save, and I'm going to left click that once. All right, my bad. I meant save as. Because this is our first time saving this file, we have to click save as. So I left click that once. Now that brings up a window. So make sure you're doing that. Follow along, pause if you need to. Now I have this window because I clicked save as. This is the first time I'm saving something. I have a drop down arrow here. So I need you to click this drop down arrow, and that's going to bring up like our options of folders that we can save. And notice that disappeared on me. That's because it like kind of glitches out. I have to click the drop down again. So get to that point. Now I'm going to click OneDrive. So I click OneDrive, and in your OneDrive, you should create a new folder. Notice this icon right here. This allows you to create a new folder. You can create a new folder called 3D modeling, something like that. And then we're going to want you to save in that folder. So for example, I have a folder already called Inventor Practice. So I'm going to double click that. And then I'm going to call this, and I want you to call yours as well, Wii Remote. For me, I'm going to put a 2 because this is my second one. So if you type Wii Remote, you should be in your OneDrive. You should be in the folder that's in your OneDrive. The reason why we save in the OneDrive is what happens here. Whatever computer you're working on right now, if you save in the OneDrive, you can access that from any other computers in the design lab. That's why we do that. So if your computer were to break or somebody's on your computer or whatever, you can access your stuff from different computers. That's why we save in the OneDrive. Anyway, so now here I got a file name, and we want to name our file names with a good name. We don't want to like use weird names like I'm going to save my Wii remote, I'm going to name it Bob. Like, doesn't make sense. Like, name it what it is so you can easily find it. So I click save now. You do the same. We have just saved our file. We have saved it in the folder in our OneDrive. Let's say we spent 5 minutes, 10 minutes working and we're ready to save again. Because we have already saved this, we do not have to go through all that again because we did the save as before. So now all you have to do, look at where my mouse is. All I have to do is, let's say I spent 5 minutes working, 10 minutes working, I want to resave. I click that one time, just that icon right there. Another way I can do it is I go File and I just click Save. So again, what I did is I clicked File and I did Save. I think a shortcut is Control S as well. So again, you want to be regularly saving. Now, what I want you to do is click this home icon in the bottom left. Sometimes your files will show up down here, sometimes they won't. Do not get used to trying to find your files down here. I don't want you to get used to that. Sometimes I don't know, the computer's weird. Sometimes your stuff doesn't show up here. Do not get used to trying to find your stuff down here, because like you're gonna be like, where's my stuff? And you're gonna think it's gone, whereas in reality, you just not open it correctly. So now here is the proper way to open stuff. Is I go and I click this open folder. So you click the open folder. So click the open folder. And then now I go back to my OneDrive. I go back to my Inventor practice folder, and there's my stuff inside of there. So then I would click it, and then I'd click open, and then it would open. That is the proper way to open your stuff. So what I'd like you to do is let's X out our file, and I'd like you to now go through the process, apply what you just learned, reopen your file from your OneDrive. If you were successful with that, congratulations, you have finished the intro section. I need an air high five. Ready, go. We are now ready for stage 2, and our end result is we are going to have a box. We're going to 3D model a box that's going to be approximately 3 inches by 10 inches by 4 inches. We're going to learn some basic part making here, so let's do this. Your screen should look like this on your Design Lab computer. We are going to start with, in the upper left corner, move your mouse to the upper left hand corner, and I want you to see over here that we have this 2D sketch symbol. If I were to click this drop down arrow where the words are for Start 2D Sketch, you'll also see where it says Start 3D Sketch. We're never going to use Start 3D Sketch. We're always going to use Start 2D Sketch. We never ever really need to click this unless we need to change it back to Start 2D Sketch. So you don't have to click that. All you have to click is this logo or this symbol right here for Start 2D Sketch. So I click 2D Sketch, and notice how my cursor changed, and notice how these axes show up. So make sure you do that real quick. We are going to click one of these planes. Notice that we have these different axes here. We got the X, the Y, and the Z. And so this is the XY plane, and this would be the ZY plane. Let's start making our stuff on the XY plane. So I left click that, and then I go to this view, and we are now in 2D sketch mode. So get to that point. One way that we know we are in 2D sketch mode is we see this green check mark. That's one of the big ways that we know we are in 2D sketch mode. Another thing I want you to see here is in this upper left corner that we are on the sketch tab. That's really important. We want to be on the sketch tab, and see how that's highlighted in blue. And also you can see all the tools that we have. These are tools that we're going to use to start drawing some 2D shapes. We got line tools. Notice I could click this drop down arrow. We got all kinds of different types of lines, different types of circles here, arcs, whatever. Rectangle. We're going to start with making a rectangle, just a basic rectangle, this 2-point rectangle. So I left click the rectangle tool, then I release. So left click release means I left click release, and then I left click release. Notice where my mouse is here, and I'm going to left click release again, and then I'm just going to move my mouse and left click release again. So get to that point so you have a rectangle. Now I want you to see what happens for me here. Notice that this rectangle tool is still highlighted. I'm going to left click release again. I got another rectangle. I'm going to do it again. I got another rectangle, but I don't want more rectangles. I just want the one rectangle. So now I want you to see this program is kind of picky here with your tools and what you're on and that type of stuff. So very important key. I need you to look at your Design Lab computer keyboard right now. Look in that upper left-hand corner. I want you to point to the escape key. Find it, upper left corner, point to the escape key. Watch what happens on my computer when I press the escape key. When I press the escape key, boom. Now that tool no longer is highlighted. That means I can start picking and choosing and doing other stuff or clicking and dragging this kind of stuff versus if I was on this tool, I wouldn't be able to click and drag this kind of stuff. It would just keep making rectangles, which I don't want to do that right now. I want to get rid of these boxes. So let's do that together. I want you right now on your keyboard of the Design Lab computer, I want you to find the delete key and point to the delete key. Not backspace, so I didn't say backspace. Find the delete key and point to it. Now watch what we're gonna do. We wanna delete all of these lines. So there's a couple different ways we could do this. Of course, we could just click the back arrow, or I could push Control Z to undo. But I want you to understand how some of the other ways of how to do some of this kind of stuff, because you're not always gonna be able to click that back arrow. So for example, if I wanna delete this line, I'm gonna left click release on that line. Notice how that highlighted a slightly different color. Now I'm gonna press the delete key, boom. Watch that, just that line deleted. So you right now delete one of your lines. I'm gonna press Control Z to bring that back. So I want you to do the same, press Control Z just so you get used to undoing things. Now check this out. I can left click and then I'm gonna drag, left click and drag over this whole box, and then I release. And then I press delete to delete that whole thing. So now what I want you to do, I want you to delete both of your boxes just like I did there. Go. All right, so far we have a rectangle. Notice that there are no numbers on this rectangle. That means that we don't know the size of this rectangle, and we want to be precise. It's important to be precise and make this stuff the correct size. So now we're going to click this dimension tool. So left click, release your dimension tool, and then we're going to left click, release one of our lines. I'm going to start with this upper horizontal line. I'm going to left click, release, and then I'm going to move my mouse. I'm going to center. I don't like my dimensions way on the side like that. That doesn't look nice. I'm going to move it more towards the center and slightly up and out of the object. I left click, release my dimension in, and we're going to start with our first numbers here. I'm going to type the number 10, and then I'm going to press enter. So you do the same thing. Make that horizontal line 10 inches long. Do it. Notice what happened on mine, probably happened on yours too, is now it's like, okay, well, like what happened there? I can't see all of it. Well, it's because we made it bigger and we're really zoomed in. So what we have to do now is we have to zoom out. And you probably guessed it, you're gonna use the mouse wheel to zoom out. So use your mouse wheel to zoom in and out. It probably goes the opposite way than you think. And then you're gonna press the mouse wheel down like a button. So if you look at my finger right now, you're gonna press that mouse wheel down, you're gonna click it like a button, and you're gonna hold it. So I press the mouse wheel down like a button, and notice that hand symbol shows up, and I can click and drag and like pan or move my stuff around here. So you do the same, kind of recenter yourself. I'm still on this dimension tool. I'm going to left click this vertical line, and now we're gonna make a happy little accident. We're gonna accidentally put this way down like here and make that ugly. And we're gonna check mark that and put that dimension in. So do the same. Now notice, it's like, oh, but wait, that's not right. So I'm gonna left click this line again and bring this over here again. But then the computer's like, hey, you can't tell that line, you can't give that line two different dimensions. Just don't try to put a second one in, just change that original one. So let's do that. So I'm gonna click cancel. And I'm going to press the escape key to get off of my tool. I press the escape key. Now I can double left click this number, and we're going to change that. We want that 3. So change your vertical line to be 3 inches tall. Now I'm going to left click and drag this over and kind of center it. Be nice and neat to kind of keep ourselves organized. And I'm going to click off of that just so I'm off of that. Congratulations, you now have a box that is 10 inches by 3 inches. Think back to your math classes. Notice we have a y-axis, the vertical axis right now for us, and we have an x-axis. So here's what 3D modeling is. 3D modeling is basically plotting points, connecting and drawing those lines, kind of like the computer is going to connect those lines for you, and then you're going to give those things depth. That's all that 3D modeling is. So if you notice this line here, we have a point here and a point here, and the computer then connected it for us. And so we have that line that's 3 inches tall, and that's in the y-axis how tall it is. And then this line is 10 inches long in the x-axis. So now we have to add some depth. We're going to have to add some depth in the z-axis. What I want you to do then is click Finish Sketch. I'm going to zoom out a little bit, and I'm going to pan my screen back here. I'm clicking the mouse wheel down to kind of move that around. And then now notice we have to add some dimensions in the z-axis because we have the up and down, we have the left and right. So now let's get some dimensions in the z-axis. So here's how you do that. In the upper left-hand corner, you click Extrude. And extrude, we're going to add depth. Notice there's an arrow here. We could click and drag that arrow. So that's one way we could do it, but that's not a really precise way to do it or the fastest way to do it. I want you to see that we can choose which way that goes as well. And the way that what I want you to see here is for the distance, that's where we're going to actually type in the distance. I'm going to type in 4. So I press 4 and then I press enter. I got to click OK, it looks like. Boom. You do the same. You now should have a box that is 10 inches by 3 inches by 4 inches. Congratulations. But I want to show you a couple more things related to this. We know how to zoom in and out. We know how to pan. Also, check this out. There's a view cube up here. I can click this view cube and I can drag it and I can kind of change what I'm looking at. Notice that the names of the view are on that view cube. So I'd like you to do exactly what I'm doing right now. Click your view cube and just kind of spin it around, check it out, look at the bottom, look at the top, look at the right, left, that kind of stuff. So do that. Get it all crooked. Our view is now kind of crooked. Check this out. I'm going to click top. So if I just left click and release top, now it gives me a dead on top view. Like we call that orthographic. Now I'm going to click, let's say the back. So if I click back, now I have a dead on view of the back. But let's say I want to turn that 90 degrees. So on the view cube, I'm going to left click this arrow. I'm going to left click and release this arrow. Boom. Now that turned that, and now I have a dead on view of the back. So you do the same. Get to that view. If your views are not exactly the same as mine, that's okay. It doesn't matter right now. Another thing I want you to see is we could click also like these edges. It gives us kind of an angled view. And clicking, I want you to try clicking this home button, which then takes us to what's considered the home view. Another thing I want you to try, zoom out really far. Zoom out so far. Oh, you can't see it. Where'd it go? Try that. I have so many people, they go to me, Mr. Gooprod, my project, it's gone. I can't find it. It's lost forever. But it's not lost forever because all you have to do is you click this home icon. Boom. It comes back right in front of your face. It still exists. And one last thing I want to show you. You can change the color of stuff. So for most of us, it's going to start on default, which just means it's like a gray type color. So I clicked default, or this area up here. That's where you change the color. So you're welcome to change the color. The last thing we're going to do is we're just going to save this. Remember, we can save by clicking this icon here, or what I prefer you do is click File, Save. Do that. Congratulations, you have finished section 2. That wasn't so bad, was it? Take a deep breath in with me right now. Ready, go. Deep breath out. You survived section 2. Let's move on to section 3. We are now ready for section 3. Section 3, our evidence of understanding how to use the browser. We're going to modify our box to be this size by using the browser. Let's go to this view. Let's have our box up in front of our face. Look on the left side of your screen, kind of watch what I'm doing with my mouse here. This whole left side is what we call the browser. The browser is super, super duper important. You must have the browser open. I need you to have it open at all times. It's going to be important for me to be able to help you. It's going to be important for other people to help you. It's going to be important for you to make modifications. And it also helps show that you understand what you're doing way, way better. So you need to have this white bar open. Let's say you accidentally closed it. So let's say I X this out. Whoops, I lost my browser. How do I bring it back up? I click this plus icon here. So I click plus, and I click Model Browser. That's the easiest way to bring it back up. I can also notice where I'm clicking. I can click this View tab, and then I can go to User Interface. So again, I'm on the View tab. I click User Interface, and then I make sure that Browser is checked. Anyway, that's how you do that. Now, if I clicked any of these tabs, I have to click back to the tab that I want. So right now, we should be on the 3D model tab. What the browser allows you to do is it allows you to go through and see your history, and it allows you to make modifications. Let's say we spent 5 hours making something, and then we're gonna have a long list of different changes and that type of stuff. What we're not gonna be able to do is we can't just keep clicking back. That's not going to work. What you're gonna actually have to do, and this is one of the joys of 3D modeling, is you can kind of go you can look at your history of different features that you have made, or sketches, or shapes, or whatever, and you can edit them along the way. This will make, you'll see this a little bit more once we get further on this Wii remote, but what I want you to see right now is just some of the basics here, and we're going to actually apply some of this, and throughout this whole lesson, we're going to be applying this. What I need you to do, this is a rule I need you to follow along with. Anything that you do in here, you need to have the pluses open. Whenever you have an extrusion, you should see a sketch underneath it. This is how this should look. Notice I clicked that plus, so I need you to do the same. We should only have one extrusion so far, and we should have one sketch that's related to that extrusion. You don't right now need to have these other top 3 open. At some point, I might have to have you have this origin one open, but we'll worry about that at a different time. But anything that's like at this first extrusion on down, we want to have the pluses open. Notice that when I left click this one time, it highlights what that's about. So this extrusion here was about when I extruded it. When you extruded it, we added like 4 inches or whatever. If I were to left click sketch 2, so I want you to do the same thing, left click the sketch, and notice what highlights on mine and yours. Notice what highlights is this shows the sketch that we originally drew. So for me, sketch 2 is this first rectangle that's 10 inches by 3 inches. So what that means is if I wanted to modify anything with those 10 inches or 3 inches with that original shape, is I could edit it by modifying that sketch. If I wanted to modify the 4-inch part, I'd have to modify the extrusion. Here's how you do that. So let's start with modifying our shape properly. So I'm going to double left click sketch 2. So a couple of different ways you can do this. In this program, there's usually all kinds of different ways to do stuff. I can double left click sketch 2, like double boom boom, like kind of like fast like that. Some people struggle with that. Another way you can do it is you can right click it and you can click edit sketch. That's one way you can do it. Notice what I want you to see here right now, this is highlighted. So if I were to double left click it, now it's going to make me change the name of it. So like if that ever happens, just left click an empty space. So again, I left click really slow, and then now that's like messing me up. So I have to left click off of it to try again. So now watch, I'm going to double left click. Now I went back into the sketch and I can edit the sketch. So now I want you to get to this view. I double left clicked the sketch in my browser. Now I can edit it. We want the Wii remote to be 6 inches long. So I double left click that dimension, I press 6, I press enter. You do the same. I'm now going to change this to say 1.25 for this vertical line. Now my part is updated. So yours should be exactly like that as well. I'm going to click finish sketch. So you get to that point as well, get to this point. This definitely doesn't look correct for a Wii remote, so we have to do one thing yet. We have to edit this extrusion. So I can either double left click it, which then will bring up the window and allow me to edit it, or I can right click it and I can edit feature. The extrusion is not a sketch, so I'm not going to click edit sketch, I'm going to click edit feature. But for me, I like to double left click. So I double left click, and now I can edit this. So get to this point. The number we're going to type in here is 1 0.5, and the default size, like this is the default unit is inches. This is all going to be inches. In engineering in the United States, that's generally what is used. And then like for our workshop, like the table saw just has inches, that kind of stuff. So that's why we use inches. I click OK. I'm going to kind of like recenter my view here. And now that's starting to look correct. So make sure you get to that point. Here's something I want you to try. Let's click start 2D, or like let's click the 2D sketch symbol. And just watch what I'm doing for a second here. I click 2D sketch, I click the object, I click finish sketch. I'm doing this 3 times. So I just added 3 2D sketches. Now notice how that showed up in my browser. Notice that these sketches are not related to any extrusions. They're not tied in with any extrusions. Like this one is underneath this one, it's with it. These have nothing going on in them. When I click it, look, nothing highlights because there's nothing in them. I just very quickly made some 2D sketches. So now, this is a big thing I want you to see about this browser is I can right-click I can right-click these sketches that I don't want, and I can now delete them. So I'm right-clicking and deleting those. So if you added some unnecessary sketches, do the same right now. Let's save because we are done with section 3. We are cruising. We are now into section 4, which is all going to be about sketch layers. We're going to add some buttons on top of our Wii Remote looking box. And then there's going to be only one more section after this. So hopefully you're starting to feel a little bit more comfortable as time goes on here. Let's bring our program back up. Let's start drawing some buttons. Click your 2D sketch icon in the upper left corner. And then here's something new for us. We have this box now, and what we can do on this box is we can start drawing shapes on top of this box. So if we look at the Wii Remote, our buttons are going to be on the top side of this Wii Remote, not on the left or right, but our button's going to go on the top side. So I'm going to left click release. Now I'm in 2D sketch mode. Again, I know that I'm in 2D sketch mode because I have this green check mark. The tab is dark blue. And what we're going to do now is we're going to add a circle. So I left click circle, and then I'm going to left click release the circle, and then I'm going to move my mouse and I left click release, and then I'm going to finish sketch. So I'd like you to do the same. Get a circle drawn on top of your box. Now, if we think about that what we just did here, this is not precise. We didn't tell the circle how big to be. We didn't tell it where to be on the top of this box. This is not precise. This is not detailed enough, and we're going to do better than that. But we're making some happy little accidents on purpose. Here's what I want you to do. Click 2D sketch again. Let's do a 2D sketch on the top. So get to this point. Now here's a super common problem when people are trying to change stuff and play around in sketch mode. Notice that we have now sketch 7. We just started sketch 7. Right now we're in sketch 7. We know that because this area is highlighted. I click dimension, and now I'm going to try and click this circle. And you do the same. Try clicking your circle. You can't do it. The program won't let you click it. The program won't let you modify it. So then people will say, oh, what's going on here? Why can't I click that? It's not letting me change the dimension. And the reason why it's not letting us click that is because right now we are actually in sketch 7. So let's do something really quick. Let's left click circle. Let's draw 2 more circles really quick. And then I want you to finish your sketch. Notice when I left click in my browser, and you do the same, I left click or just put my mouse over it, sketch 6, that's highlighting our first circle. If I were to then left click sketch 7 or hover over that, that's now highlighting these other 2 circles. So what's important for you and to use your brain is to be organized and understand which sketch you're working in, and then those are the sketches that you want to modify. So let's fix this up. We're going to double left click sketch 6. We're going to edit this sketch. I'm going to click the dimension tool. I can click the outside of the circle, and then I'm going to drag my mouse out, and then I left click. You do the same. Let's make this 0.5. I type in 0.5 and I press enter or click the green check mark. Boom, that's the right size. So get your thing to be the right size. And then we're going to tell this circle where to go. I'm still on the dimension tool. So now notice, the circle is the proper size. We did one dimension so far. We have to do 2 more dimensions. Those other 2 dimensions, so that means we're going to be doing 3 different dimensions. One is going to tell us the size of the circle. Now we need to tell this circle how far away to be from the edge. I left clicked this edge and I'm moving my mouse down. I released the button. And now I'm moving my mouse to the center of the circle. I left click and then I release again. And notice I have this number here. I'm going to drag this dimension out so it's not sloppy. I'm going to left click there. And I'm trying to remember, what we're trying to do now is now we're going to have to do a little bit of math. Sometimes you got to do that to center things, and in designing, you got to do a lot of math sometimes. I'm trying to remember if that was 1.5 this way. So if it's 1.5 this way, then our number should now, halfway should be 0.75. And I press enter, and that's correct. You do the same. So center your circle. We centered it in what would be the z-axis. So if you look on my computer on the bottom left, here is the z-axis. The z-axis right now is going up and down. So I just put a dimension in the z-axis, and now I have to put a dimension in the x-axis. Because watch, I'm going to press escape to get off of my tool, and this circle is going to move. Look, I could drag it around. That's no good. I want to tell it where to be. So now I click the dimension tool again. I click the center of the circle, and I click the front of the Wii remote. So again, I left click, release the center of the circle. I left click, release the front of the Wii remote. I'm going to drag my mouse up, or I should say move my mouse up. My hand is not, I didn't press the button again yet. And now I'm going to left click, release, and now I can tell the distance of how far that circle should be from the front. And let's do 1.5 for that. All right, I want you to get to that point and then finish your sketch. So we now have a circle that's precisely placed. Now let's play around with these back circles. So we need to edit those. We're going to make them the right size and kind of move them around a little bit nicer. Let's left click, release sketch 7. Or left click, left double, oh my gosh. Double left click, release sketch 7, or you can right click, edit it. We get in this view. We're going to make a happy little accident here. Follow along what I'm doing. Right now, we're looking like dead on at those circles. Now we're going to click our view cube, and we're going to go at an angle here and click one of the sides. So like right now, for me, that's the top. We want to be working on the top, but I'm going to happy little accident and click the front. So you click a side that we're not working on. It should end up looking something like this. Now watch what happens. Let's say I'm going to draw some more circles. So I'm trying to draw a circle. And look what's happening. It's not drawing. The reason why it's not drawing is because I did a 2D sketch. I didn't do a 2D sketch on this side. I did a 2D sketch on the top. So if I'm trying to draw stuff on the front, that's not going to work. I have to be looking at the top to be able to see what I'm drawing. So again, if I'm at the front and I'm trying to draw stuff, I'm like looking at it at like a view that I won't be able to see it because it's so thin because it's 2D. So what I then have to do is I have to then move back to the top view. I'm going to left click the top view and then boom, there's my circle again. So I want you to try making that accident. Just try and understand that. Now what we're going to do is we're going to fix these circles. I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to change this circle to be 0.25. That's 1/4 of an inch in size. That looks like it changed that one too. I'm just going to double check. No, it didn't change it. So I got to change this one to 0.25 as well. So now I have 2.25 circles. You do the same. Another thing that you can do in this program is I could highlight stuff and I could press Control-C, Control-V. I could copy and paste. Notice I'm then going to click the center of the circle to drag out. We don't need 3 circles, but I just want you to see that you can copy and paste and highlight stuff. So anyway, I'm going to highlight that and I'm going to delete it, get rid of it. So I want you to try copy and paste the circle and then delete it. And then for these circles, they are not centered and I didn't tell them where to go. So now let's do that appropriately. I'm going to click the center of the circle. I'm going to click the outside of the cube or the Wii remote, and then I'm going to left click on the outside so I can type in my dimension, which is going to be 0.75. And I'm going to do the same thing to this other circle. And not only that is now I need to tell this circle how far away to be from this bottom part. And let's see what an inch looks like. I think that's fine. And not only do I have to tell that one circle how far to be from the bottom, but I have to tell these two circles how far to be from each other. Let's do 1 inch on that. We have our circles. So now what we want to do is we want to add that last dimension. Right now, we're going to add a dimension in the Y because we did not tell it how far up to be, how far up and down to be. So I'm going to click extrude, and I'm going to click this area here. Notice I'm clicking kind of the middle of it. Sometimes if you click the outside, it doesn't work. So I'm going to click the middle of it. And whoa, that's a really tall button. That'd be crazy if it was that tall. So we're going to delete this number. We're going to change that to 1/8. We can type in fractions in here too. So 1/8 is 0.125, or I can type it as a fraction, which is 1/8. And then I click OK. Boom, I got myself a beautiful button. And then now I'm going to click extrude, and I'm going to extrude both of these circles as well. What I want you to see, this is a common problem, is what they'll do is they'll just click the one and extrude it. And then now notice that other one disappeared. I can't extrude it. Ms. Grouper, why can't I extrude that other button? So then they'll end up doing something like this. And then they'll draw another button. Then chaos happens. So what I want you to see here is, well, whoops, I added a sketch that I don't need. I'm going to right click that sketch. I'm going to delete it. And this extrusion, notice for me that was extrusion 4. What I actually have to do is I have to right click and delete the extrusion. I didn't want to delete the sketch, but I want to delete the extrusion because now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click extrude, and I'm going to click both shapes. I left click here, I left click in the middle here, and then I have to click both to extrude both. Boom. Now we have a rectangle box with a couple circles. We are making progress. Congratulations, section 4 is now completed. It is now time for our last section, section 5. By the end of this, you will have a beautiful 3D modeled Wii remote, and you are going to be so proud of yourself. We are going to learn a little bit more about how to make parts, extruding as a cut, that kind of stuff. It'll make sense once we start diving in here, so let's dive in. We kind of know already how to add parts to an object. So let's add what's called the D-pad. So if we look back at our picture of the Wii remote, there's this like cross-looking thing there. So let's add that. So I want you to think in your head, well, how would you go about adding that cross to the top? And how about this? I want you, in a second here, you're going to pause this lesson. I want you to try and make that cross part. Try it out, and then I want you to see how I did it too. And if you mess up or whatever like that, come back and kind of see how I did it. All right, so you should have paused. You should have tried making the like that T cross shape kind of thing. Now, here's how I would do it. I'm going to do a 2D sketch. I'm going to do it on the top. And that shape's going to go over here, not by the small buttons, but by the bigger buttons. And the way that I'm going to do it is I'm going to click rectangle, and I'm going to draw 2 rectangles, and they're going to be going over each other. For us right now, we're just going to be not super precise with this, and I'm okay with that just because of the interest of time. It's not going to be perfectly sized. I'm not going to, you could, if you want to be really precise, you could dimension all this, you could do the math, you could center this, both of these rectangles, you could center them on each other. Anyway, if you want to get crazy with it, you're welcome to. One thing I want you to see is this trim button. At some point, we might need to trim. Notice, okay, here's what I want you to try. Notice I could left click this line and I could delete it, and that gets rid of the whole thing. I don't want to do that though. What I want to do is I want to trim this inside part. So I could click trim, and I could trim out that inside part. Notice I can trim out all 4 of those. So that's pretty cool, but actually the program's decently smart, so I didn't need to do that. What I could actually do is I could just finish my sketch, And because I basically have actually, will that be 5 shapes? I have 5 boxes that I'm going to extrude. So I go to extrude, and I'm going to click each one separately, and I'm going to extrude each one, and I already have it as 1/8, so that's good. And I click OK. So get yourself a nice looking D-pad like that. Next step, so that was how you add to the object. So now let's look at how do we actually take away. So if you look at my other file here, if we look at this back side, it's like, well, the Wii remote kind of has like a arced, for comfort, it's kind of like arced at the bottom. So it's kind of like, well, thinking about like, well, how would you do that? And what shape would that be? So I would just want you thinking about, well, like, well, how do you think you would do that? So if you notice, I showed you what would be the back side. My view cube is labeling it as the right. This part's here, the right. Like, think about, okay, it's an arc. It's an arc shape. So in this program, the challenge for you is to think about when you're designing and making things, it's like, okay, I either need to add stuff to a shape, like we've done so far. We've added stuff to the shape to kind of make it how we want. And sometimes you might have to cut away to kind of make it into the shape that you want as well. It's almost like working with clay. If I'm modeling clay, I'm maybe going to put parts together. I'm going to get that main shape. Maybe I'm going to cut away parts and then maybe add little parts as well. Kind of doing that with 3D modeling. So let's do this together. Let's view this side dead on. So I'm going to click right. And another way, like I actually didn't have to go dead on, because what I can do is I can do 2D sketch. So we're going to do 2D sketch, and we're going to click this surface, not the side, not the top, not on top of any of this other stuff, but I'm going to click the back side of this. And then now I'm going to do an arc. So get to this point. And now I'm going to click arc. So I left click arc. I left click here. I left click here. And then I'm going to bring my arc down to the center, the bottom here. It kind of locks in. If you notice, I got like a green dot here. You'll kind of feel it with the mouse. It kind of locks in. So I'm going to left click that in. Boom. Get to that point. We are going to make a happy little accident here. We're going to make an accident on purpose. Let's click finish sketch. So now you're kind of like thinking, oh, okay, well, if I have this arc shape, now I just want to maybe get rid of these. So the idea would be, okay, let's extrude those shapes as a cut. So then notice this symbol right here. So click extrude, and then, excuse me, notice this symbol right here. It says cut. So I click cut, and then I try to click what I want to cut, but it's not letting me cut. So I want you to notice that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click cancel. I'm going to click back to sketch 10, and I'm going to show you why this doesn't work. Now, the computer doesn't know what you're trying to extrude, because if I just drew this arc, all this arc is, it's just a line. This arc right now is not a shape. You can't extrude a line. We can extrude shapes, but you can't extrude a line. So what I need to do is I need to close the shape that I want to extrude. So now check this out. I'm going to click line, and I'm going to notice how my mouse grabs in there. When it's like green and it closes, that means it's locking in. So I click the line tool. I'm going to left click release here, and I'm going to move my mouse down, left click release there, move my mouse over, left click release there. I'm going to purposely not close it. I'm going to left click release there, and then I'm going to press escape to get off of the line tool. I want you to do the same. Get to this point right now. Go. So we're making another happy little accident. Let's click finish sketch. Let's see if this extrudes. So I click extrude. I want to extrude as a cut this time. Oh no, the computer's not letting me select this. Or I'm going to click the line, and the computer's like, hey, no, you can't do that. No valid closed regions. That's because this is not closed. So, okay, let's fix this. I click cancel. I'm going to go back to my sketch 10 by double left clicking it. We're going to edit this sketch. We're going to close this baby up. So I could close it just by adding in another line here, or I could delete this if I really wanted it and just draw another line. The simple thing to do for me right now, I'm just going to click the line tool. I'm going to click here. I'm going to close that like it's locking in. Boom, boom. So right now, I have a fully closed shape. You do the same. Let's finish our sketch. And now let's click extrude, and we're going to extrude that as a cut. I want you to change your view so you're kind of angling out like this. Notice we can drag this out, but that's not what we want to do. We don't want that going like a big chunk thing going outward like that. Okay, well, let's make it go the other way. And now the computer automatically senses, okay, well, if you're going that way, then you're probably wanting to do that as a cut. So notice this cut symbol. Like I can click join. If I were to click join, that means it's adding more like chunk to it. But if I'm clicking cut, I'm going to cut away exactly what I'm looking for. And notice I could type in precisely how far I want to cut. So anyway, this is starting to look how I want. So now I'm going to click OK. Boom. Because we've made some changes here, let's click save. Next thing, we're going to cut out, there's like an arc shape that's going to be cut out on the side, kind of like the side front. If you see up here. So now, check this out. I'm going to click 2D Sketch because we got to draw the shape that we want to cut out. So that's why we're doing 2D Sketch. Notice I can't click this round surface. So, but I do have a flat surface here. So you can't 2D Sketch on a round surface. With some special ways you can. We'll eventually maybe learn that. But right now I'm going to do 2D Sketch on the side. So I left click on the side. And now we're going to play around here on the side. Follow along with me. I click the line tool. I bring my mouse to the front of this Wii remote, not in the center. I'm not connecting it to like this line here or in the center or anything. I bring this down a little bit. I'm going to left click on the front. I'm going to move my mouse to the right. I don't want it angled. I want it, we'd call that perpendicular to that front. And I'm going to left click release. Boom. Now I have a line, but now I want to dimension that line. So I'm going to press the escape key to get off the tool. And then I'm going to click the dimension tool, and I'm going to click this horizontal line that I just drew. I'm going to left click it. I'm going to move my mouse up to left click again. Let's make that 1 inch long. I press enter. So now right now we have a line that's 1 inch long. Now we're going to click arc. Click the arc tool. I'm going to left click when it's green here. It's kind of connecting. I'm going to left click release there. I'm going to move my mouse to the bottom of the Wii remote. Notice I'm moving it to the bottom. It kind of locks in. I'm going to left click release there. And then notice what you can do with your arc. We don't want it way up here. We don't want it way down here. We want kind of a nice looking arc, like right there. There's like a symbol that will show up kind of telling you when it's kind of, if you want to say proper radius, whatever. So my question for you right now is, yes or no, would I be able to extrude this shape? Correct answer is no. The reason why is because it's not a shape yet, it's just a line. I have to close this baby off. So I'm going to click line, and I go to the front here to connect my green, left click, left click, left click. I close this off. I'm being very precise. If I'm off, it's not going to work. So I'm going to left click here, I'm going to close it, and I'm going to click finish sketch. And then I'm going to extrude this. And now notice the computer didn't automatically extrude it for me. The computer, I have to tell the computer what I want to extrude. I'm not extruding this shape. I'm extruding this shape. So, whoa, computer, what are you doing? You're crazy. So sometimes that happens. So I click cut. And now the computer's like, oh, you probably want it going that way, and you're going to cut. So then I click OK. Boom. Check that out. We are almost done. That thing is looking awesome. I'm going to click save because we've been working for a little while. Notice in my browser, so we're going to meet our expectations with the browser. We're going to click these pluses, and we can see the sketches within them. Notice this is starting to get kind of busy. So let's say now at this point, you wanted to kind of move something or change something. Like let's say this D-pad we wanted to drag down a little bit. I could go through my browser and I could figure out what sketch that is. So sketch 11 was our cutout. Sketch 10 was the back cutout. Sketch 9 was the D-pad. So now I'm going to click in the white space. I'm going to double left click sketch 9. And if I really wanted to, then I could play around and mess with this some more. Let's say I wanted to drag that down a little bit, whatever. So now, boom, that updates. So that's one cool aspect about this program. Another thing I'm going to show you right now is we're going to fillet, meaning round some of these edges. Fillet, not fillet. This means fillet. I left-click fillet. It brings up this window. This number means the size of the fillet, the radius. Let's change that to 1/16, which means 1/16 of an inch. I'm going to click the tops of my buttons. You do the same, and you can do the same thing on your D-pad. You can click all those edges on the D-pad, be precise. And then I'm going to click OK or apply. Then that modified that, so you do the same. And now let's do a fillet on all these other edges. And this time though, let's change this to 1/8, so 1/8. Or you can type in 0.125 if you prefer decimals. So I'm clicking these edges. You do the same, and then, looks like it works. So sometimes if you do like a fillet, a lot of stuff, sometimes it might say, hey, that failed. So then you'll have to kind of think about why. And what happened there for me was that there's just an edge that it can't take off that much. So I'm going to try again. I'm just going to do some of my main sides here. So for me right now, that's all I am going to need on my Wii remote. And we have our basic Wii remote done. Overall looks pretty good. If you really want to get wild and crazy and add some of the other details and be really precise, if we have enough time, you're welcome to do that. So congratulations, you have completed the Wii remote. There's just one or two more things I want to show you really quick, some common issues. Make sure you save here. Save, save, save. Here's a common issue. I want you to double left click where it says 3D model tab. Double left click that and watch what happens. Notice your menu changed. Do it again. And changed again. Do it again. Changed again. Do it again. And it changed again. So now this is back to normal. So sometimes people, they accidentally double left click this and it kind of changes the view of it. Another thing I want you to see, here's another common mistake, is people will accidentally, they'll be on the sketch tab and they'll be like, I want to draw a line. Why isn't it letting me draw a line? What's going on here? Because I'm not in sketch mode right now. We know we're in sketch mode when we have that green check mark. To get into sketch mode, I need to be on the 3D model tab and I need to click the 2D sketch tool and I need to click a surface that I'm going to do a sketch on. So just keep that in mind. And I'm going to use my browser here. I'm going to delete that last sketch because there's nothing in it. And I'd like to tell you, congratulations, you have survived. You now have 3D modeling superpowers, and I hope you use your superpowers for good and not evil.